Welcome back. Breaking news coming in. Smriti Irani has reacted on the matter when concerning Ahmadiyya Muslims. Smriti Irani has emphasized that every Waqf board across the country should adhere to the Indian Penal Code and uphold the principles of religious freedom enshrined in the Constitution. She asserted that no Waqf board or entity has the right to disqualify anyone from any religious community. This comes after the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board passed a resolution saying Ahmadiyyas are not Muslims. Listen in to what the Union Minister had to say.
स्मृति जी, आपने लेटर लिखा कि अहमदिया मुसलमानों को जो मुस्लिम समाज से अलग किया वो गैर कानूनी, लेकिन जब मैं तो उलेमा हिंद कह रहा है कि वो सही है और ऐसे में आपका फैसला क्या?
देखिए, पार्लियामेंट के अंतर्गत जो कानून बना है उसमें स्पष्ट है कि वक्फ बोर्ड की कुछ जिम्मेदारियां हैं जो भारत के संविधान के अंतर्गत निश्चित की गई हैं। मेरा मानना है कि हमने मुख्य सचिव आंध्र प्रदेश को पत्राचार के माध्यम से जवाब मांगा है। जब जवाब आएगा तब मैं इस पर आगे की कार्रवाई के ऊपर टिप्पणी कर सकती हूँ। वर्तमान में पुनः कहती हूँ कि एक्ट ऑफ पार्लियामेंट के अनुसार ही वक्फ बोर्ड को चलना पड़ेगा। वक्फ बोर्ड के पास किसी को भी उनके धर्म से निष्कासित करने का कोई अधिकार नहीं। मैं हिंदुस्तानी हूँ, मेरे संदर्भ में जो कानून बनता है वो हिंदुस्तान की संसद बनाती है। हिंदुस्तान की संसद ने अपनी गरिमामय उपस्थिति में कानून बना दिया है। उस कानून पर किस प्रकार से टिप्पणी कोई भी व्यक्ति विशेष या संगठन विशेष कर रहा है, ये मुझे लगता है कि कानून की मर्यादा में करना उचित होगा।
Right, so that is what the Union Minister had to say when it comes to the entire Ahmadiyya row surrounding the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board, which used the word kafirs for Ahmadiyya Muslims, saying that they are not Muslim, they do not adhere to the Islamic faith. I'm joined by Pallavi Ghosh on the broadcast who's getting us this piece of breaking news, especially the reaction that has come in from Smriti Irani and decoding the politics surrounding this entire case. Pallavi, beyond the politicking surrounding this case, also, of course, the centre has raised the alarm over the statement that has come in from the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board. Beyond the politics, is the concern that when it comes to property management that the Waqf Board handles, that they will persecute Ahmadiyya Muslims? Is that the alarm that the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board has kind of incited when it comes to Ahmadiyya Muslims?
In fact, the Minority Affairs Ministry, whether it's under Smriti Irani now or it was under Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi earlier also, they had actually tried to bring about a kind of a normalization or some kind of a streamlining in the working of the Waqf Board. There were incidents and reports of Waqf Board being very arbitrary as far as the rulings and judgments are concerned. And in this case, what happened regarding calling the Ahmadiyyas kafirs or non-Muslims has not really gone down very well with the Minority Affairs Ministry, which is why Smriti Irani, as the Minority Affairs Minister, has also stepped in. And you're right, it's also got to do with the money part, it's got to do with the prime land, which is often at their disposal, and also the huge amount of money and funds which are available to them, either generation of their own funds, and often they get it from the Minority Affairs Ministry as well. The minister in her letter, and even in fact when she was interacting with us inside Parliament, very categorically made the point that this is completely unacceptable. Waqf Board on its own arbitrarily cannot decide who's a kafir or who's a non-Muslim. That's one. And the money part of it, the land angle also is something which needs to be considered.
Right, but Pallavi, at the same time, this is also a theological issue, because when it comes to the Ahmadiyya Muslims, as many Islamic scholars have pointed out, they don't consider the Prophet the final messenger of God. That's what they point out. So when it comes to those theological differences, the question remains, can Ahmadiyya Muslims still practice Islamic faith as it is codified in personal laws?
Well, I mean, the Ahmadiyya Muslims, and in fact, when we talk about this debate with the Uniform Civil Code, we also have to step a little aside and think of the politics behind it. The whole idea of Uniform Civil Code, something which is pushed forward by the government as well, and also the so-called progressive Muslims, is this. If you remember what the Prime Minister has said in the context of the Paspanda Muslims and also the Ahmadiyyas and the Bohras also, who I remember the Prime Minister had met in Mumbai, they had talked about the fact that, there's a small sects of people who arbitrarily decided what laws you should be governed on. Freedom of religion is something which is applicable even to this community as well. And I think that's the larger political point which is also being made by the Minority Affairs Ministry as well as the government through the minister's comments.
Right. And Pallavi, is the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board in this entire argument, because as we are pointing out, it's a theological argument, is it an outlier in this entire argument? Because many Islamic scholars have also condemned what the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board has said, because they said that the word like kafir is not appropriate when referring to any religious sect.
In fact, many feel, and especially I'm talking about the progressive Muslims, the ones who actually talk about that Muslims should not be seen just as a minority who need to stay behind because of the conservative point of view, whether it's the Pasmanda Samaj, whether it is the Bohra Samaj, or of course the Ahmadiyyas, who feel that one particular board should not be given so much of sweeping power that they can pass judgment on the kind of religion practices you want to follow. So in that sense, it also does put the Andhra Pradesh government into a bit of a spot, because on one hand, the Ahmadiyyas do matter as far as the vote bank is concerned, as far as the narrative is concerned. But on the other hand, they also do not want to antagonize, which is otherwise a very powerful board as far as the Andhra politics is concerned. But what the Minority Affairs Minister and the central government is trying to make the point is that everyone has a right to practice their own religion the way they want to do so. And the work board cannot actually dictate terms as to how it should be done and who are the ones who should be considered to be beneficiaries of the board and the policies.
Right. Thank you, Pallavi, for joining us on the broadcast and decoding the politics surrounding this tussle between the centre and the Andhra Pradesh Waqf Board. By shifting